Hi, this is your host, Sharon Rolfe, and you are listening to Fresh Courage coming to you on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. And I am here to inspire you to live wholeheartedly, to enjoy everything, and to live boldly with no regrets. And I like to kind of start the program with daily do something that gives you happiness, health, and wealth. And this is what one of the examples of doing what I love. I love color, I love wisdom sayings, and I love sewing. So that's an example that might help you. Oh, yeah, I like to do certain things too. So, um, our topic today is say yes to life. There's, I've been kind of looking for another guest that could talk to this, and she's probably way in demand more than I can ever get to reach her. So Elliott Robertson actually came to me out of the blue by somebody else's recommendation. He is a love and joy coach, and what perfect thing for Valentine's week, an author and certified happiness workshop leader. Elliott is the author of Say Yes to Life, 7 Keys to Living Full Out from Within. And he has written devotionals for Daily Word Magazine, as well as articles for Science of the Mind and Wisdom Magazine. He does hold a master's degree in psychology. So, welcome, Elliott. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Good, good. Well, what, let's start out by saying what we're going to learn today and why is that relevant?
Well, I think first and foremost, everyone will learn something different. My
Mm,
approach is just to let people come up with their own insights to whatever's presented.
mhm.
At the same time, I imagine that we might be going over some keys that might help to help us not feel trapped with whatever we're experiencing, help us to get out of our self-made prisons.
Yeah, I remember reading years ago a book by Bernie Siegel, and he was a oncology surgeon, and he found when comparing all the people who have cancer, feeling trapped was one of the key things. So I always want to, I'm on alert when people say they're trapped because we do sometimes get that way without even realizing it, don't we?
Yes, and it really is an illusion, our being trapped, and it can be hard to see through that illusion sometimes. I'm hoping that I'll be able to help inspire people to face in the direction of freedom, face in the direction of the divinity within their hearts. And
Hmm.
when that's the direction you're walking in, then that really does bring a new higher altitude to things. Saint Catherine of Siena did say that heaven isn't a destination; heaven is the direction that you're going in.
Yeah, I've been saying for years, at least 2, 3 years, I felt like heaven wants to come to earth. And I'm starting to see some interesting things showing up that just warms my heart and say, I think that's evidence that I'm on the right track. um,
Beautiful, and I love how you said warms your heart because that really is what that's the key to unlocking the
yeah.
door to your self-made prison is just letting the mind be part of the story. The mind has things to offer, but letting the mind be on the caboose of the train, letting the mind, we're just all culturally trained to let the mind do the leading and to let the mind be concerned with making achievements and giving us directions and stuff. We really do need to let the heart be served by the mind and let the heart lead the way.
So that wasn't always the case for you, Elliot?
Yeah, my story, so to speak, what sort of brought me to this place of service was back when I was about 20, I overheard a couple of ladies speaking about how they dreamed about healing the world. And I immediately had this intuition. It was just, no, that doesn't quite resonate for me. I knew for me it was all about uplifting the world. And so ever since then, that's been part of my passion, part of my mission statement. The word uplift, to uplift souls, I mean, to uplift people on a soul level has been just so central to my life. In any event, there I was at the age of 20, knowing that I really wanted to be of service to the world and to people. And at the same time, I was so lacking in self worth and self confidence, and just so sure that I wasn't good enough or capable of doing anything. I went from one entry level job to another. I was sort of swimming in a soup of jealousy and bitterness when I lived in New York in my youth. I would walk around the streets noticing other guys who were my age sitting at the outdoor seating with their friends at these expensive cafes that I couldn't afford. I was always making peanuts, and the jealousy would just show up wherever I went, whatever I did. It was always jealousy showing up. Not that I was so aware of it. I mean, let's just looking back, that's what I'm noticing. So, in any event, at some point, finally, after years of misery, I finally just decided that, if I wanted to get off of that trajectory, if I wanted to finally realize my dreams of being in service to other people, I would just have to take ownership. I just noticed that I was really blaming God, always saying life is unfair. Why did I get the short end of the stick?
Hmm.
You just did it wrong, God, or blaming life or whatever, and blaming my father too. He didn't deserve any blame. And finally, I got it that I just had to take ownership and let go of the blame, shame, and guilt and everything else.
Yeah, when I went to coaching school, I remember kind of stomping my foot and I don't know if I hit the table, but I felt like doing it and saying, it's not um okay to be invisible. And later I said, well, I want to feel value from other people. And oh, it finally dawned on me I could value myself. So let's talk about your book then. You said, what do you actually hope the reader will gain from Yes to Life?
For some readers, it may be sort of like an experience of self care, coming home
Oh
from a
yeah.
lot of volunteer activities or a long day at work or whatever, and then maybe feeling fatigued and needing a bubble bath or my book or some other kind of self care. There are just so many kinds of self care available. And we so often neglect that. We just keep going nonstop with the activities and tending to other people's needs. I feel like in this new era, self care is more important than ever. So I imagine that some people will really experience the book sort of like a bubble bath because it really is written in short sections. People can read just a little section a day or whatever, and that might make it last a month, even though it's only about 100 pages. It's a very short book, but the short sections are all very bite sized. Other people might get some nuggets of wisdom from it, some keys to getting free of the prison. So the thing that makes it different from most books out there is that it is not really a set of instructions and exercises so much as it is an invitation to tap into the imagination, because there is a lot of fiction in the book, a chance to really let all of that sink in through the encounter.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, even though, America was built for what's the preamble say for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And what happened to our happiness world? It's kind of sad. So, you actually say that there's been many books written about happiness over the last 10 or 20 years. And what makes yours different? The vignettes, is that one of the things?
Yeah, it does. It has a lot of, it's a, not just a self-help book, it has lots of genres in it, including the vignettes and the fictional invitation to go to the imagination. That does set it apart. Most of the books that I've read, and not to say anything bad about them, I have gained so much from the self-help books that have instructions and exercises. This one is really, I'm hoping it will be a pathway to the heart, a bridge to heaven, just something that gives people training wheels on how to get from the mind to the heart.
And so what has that journey from the mind to the heart, produced in your life?
It has been the gateway to a lot of joy and happiness. I wake up with joy and gratitude every day. And it's all because I am living more and more in my heart. And I continue to become more anchored in my heart with each passing day.
Yeah, I've heard that there's brain cells in our hearts, some, not a lot, but there's some in our heart. And so when we often say that we know things from our heart, that really is true, because there's brain cells there that talks to the heart, I mean to the brain, whatever. So all right, so when we come back, we're going to ask Ellie about what he finds most exciting about this book, so stay tuned. Okay, you are listening to Transformation Talk Radio and Fresh Courage Show. And I'm your host, Sharon Rolfe, and I'm here with my guest, Elliott Robertson. And we're talking about how we can say yes to life and what it might actually get us, why we would want to say yes to life. So, um, Elliott, what do you find most exciting about this book?
That's a difficult question to answer because I'm excited by so many things. So I'll just go with one or two, for starters at least. One of the things I love about the book is something I didn't really realize until after it was published. I was just looking at the table of contents and I noticed that the chapters all begin with say yes to something or other. Say yes to newness, say yes to your uniqueness, say yes to your expansiveness, and so on and so forth. And so there I was looking at the book that was published, and I realized, oh my goodness, if they can say yes, then people can say no. I could say no to all of this. I could say no to
Mhm.
life. Even the title has it. So all of a sudden, I had the epiphany that we really do have a book about choices that can be made. And we all have that free will, all have that power to go ahead and choose to say yes. Perhaps I could have titled the book Choose to Say Yes to Life. And that really excites me that we're all capable of making that choice. No matter what's going on, we can come into the eye of the storm, even if our pet, our dog is on the way to the vet and we just got demoted from at a job and the love of our life is suddenly turning their back on us or whatever it is, we can still choose a big yes to life. Another thing I love about the book is that it really is an invitation to say yes to who you are. It's an invitation to,
Good.
yes, to say yes to your uniqueness and to just really embrace who you are. And it goes beyond just saying yes to your uniqueness. It also is, if there's a moment when you don't want to say yes to life or yes to your expansiveness or whatever, if there's some voice in you that's resisting that, and we all sometimes feel like, no, I don't really, I'm just not feeling it today or whatever. Um, we were invited also to embrace that voice within us, to embrace the resistance and embrace the one within us who is always out to get us, always out to bring us down. And I mean that in a very sincere way, not in a manipulative way, not hoping that that this part of us, this voice in us will suddenly change and go away if we embrace them, but to sincerely have unconditional love for every voice within us.
Yeah, because there might be something you could learn. I recently heard someone say memory without the emotional charge is wisdom. So if we're looking at somebody and, feeling negative, well, if you take that negativity out of the picture, could there be some wisdom there? S- So
I
I,
love that.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I love the word unique. I've always loved being unique. And when I first started showing people my art blocks, that was scary. I think I was at my old job, and I started showing them to my boss, and I don't know if I was leading a workshop or what exactly, but somehow it seemed like some of my words of wisdom applied to whatever I was doing at work. And, I thought they were pretty and I thought they said something worth listening to, but what are people gonna think, That's like putting your neck on the chopping block, but, they might love it too, but it takes being willing to be different from everybody else and, go with your heart or your gut and, show what you got, right?
Yes, showing up for your uniqueness, showing up for who you are,
For life.
and honoring your heart's desire to share your uniqueness and to share. Uh, all of us come to the world not only with our unique gift, but with a yearning to share and express and to love the world and all of creation. And so that's just wonderful to go ahead and give way to that and to not let those fears get in the way.
So, what is the most common mistake people make when it comes to leading a happy life?
One of the things that is very common is just sort of getting trapped in the monkey mind, getting trapped in the harsh judgments of the monkey mind.
Oh.
We can spend years just sort of letting the monkey mind be center stage. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like the journey from the mind to the heart is so important because and going to spending time in nature can be one of the ways in which we
Mhm.
support ourselves in giving ourselves a little break from the monkey mind if we're really tuning into the vibrations of the plants and trees around us. That can help quiet the monkey mind.
Yeah, I'm starting to hear people say that if you keep, "Yeah, I'm depressed, I'm depressed," and you say every day, "I'm depressed," well, yeah, you'll stay depressed. But, and that kinda ties this is in a strange tie, but I remember there was some, I was back in my 20s and there was some flu, I guess, going around. And I was at work, I was working second shift, and I started feeling a little, kinda like, "Oh, I wonder if this is, getting on me." And I stumped my foot and I said, "Go bother somebody else." And it did! I never got sick, and I have so often remembered that because I didn't agree with the, junk that was going around and saying, "Oh, yeah, I'll get it too." So, is that kinda what you're talking about?
That sounds a lot like the law of attraction to me. And my book doesn't really get into the law of attraction. I don't work with that very much. I feel like uh, I offer something that could be complementary to the law of attraction, could be complementary to people who are doing those wonderful things that I love your example. And or it could be an alternative. A lot of people have worked with tools from the law of attraction, such as vision boards and maybe writing up an ideal scene of all the things that they'd like to have in a year or whatever. And for a lot of people, there are great results coming from that. For some people, all of that effort happens, and a year later, there's a sense of dissatisfaction with it. And so I think that my approach might be good for both camps. Those who have had good luck with that kind of stuff might also benefit from my focus on going from the mind to the heart. And those who haven't had any luck with that might find this an alternative.
So, you're saying that happiness can be a choice then, right?
Yes. And one of the things that really supports us in saying yes and choosing into yes would be cultivating inner harmony and cultivating trust. I always feel like happiness is actually a side effect or a byproduct of inner happiness, of inner harmony. And so I really don't encourage people to go to the front door of the happiness house. I think that is likely to be sort of stuck and maybe it won't even budge. If you're chasing happiness, it'll be elusive. I really believe that the back
Oh.
doors, which include inner harmony and alignment um, those doors will open easily. And then once you're in the happiness house or in the happiness garden, you can start cultivating, fertilizing the soil for the inner harmony tree. And eventually the inner harmony tree will, maybe very quickly, will bear some fruit of happiness.
That kind of reminds me of my mom. Another time, well, yeah, she would, and I think this is a lost art where if you go help somebody, they'll feel good and you will too. Oh, oh, I will too. And so they get the blessing of me helping them with whatever. And I come home with, oh, through that happiness door in the back door, you know, I feel pretty good from, helping Aunt Sue or whatever, So,
Yes, yes, I love that example. I'm so glad you're adding practical examples to the conversation because that really does help make it concrete and help, with the understanding. And I feel like what you're talking about is especially good for those who are stuck with self-pity. A lot of people,
yeah.
have self-pity as a problem, and then going out and serving other people, getting beyond the thoughts about yourself, oh, poor me, and having time to volunteer at the soup kitchen or whatever it is, can be a real tiny baby step that changes the direction you're facing and really makes a big difference.
Well, and I'm hearing that people who volunteer actually live longer. Have you heard that?
I'm not surprised because I really feel
Yeah.
like that what you're talking about, this kind of serving other people can be a key. It's sort of one of the pillars to inner harmony, which is so key to happiness. If you want to be happy, inner harmony is the foundation for it. And the pillars of harmony, inner harmony, they include self-respect. Being really kind to other people when you go to a dinner party, even if you're tempted to have an argument with one of the guests at the dinner party, and then you'll go home afterwards and you'll think, oh, I ruined the dinner party for my friend who invited me. And you'll lose your self-respect if you're not so sensitive in that moment and kind in that moment and wanting to make things good for your friend who invited you. So that's one of the pillars. And then what you're talking about with the service is also something that can serve as a pillar to create a harmony within you.
Well, and it reminds me of Rick Warren's book, Purpose Driven Life. And the first sentence is, it's not about you. So if you can get outside of yourself and start saying, how could I bring joy to someone else? Or how could I meet a need somewhere else across the street or something? So all right. So when we come back from our break, we're going to ask Elliot why there is so much depression. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening to Fresh Courage on Transformation Talk Radio today. And I'm Sharon Rolfe, and I'm here with my guest, Elliott Robertson, and we're talking about his new book, Say Yes to Life. So if you're um, struggling sometimes with feeling lost or invisible or depressed, um, sometimes in these winter months, weather can kind of press us into that depression because it's not as easy to get out. But Elliot, how does the heart play a central role in the journey from bitterness to happiness? And yeah, how does the heart? That's a little side from depression, but we'll get to that in a minute.
The heart is the place where our glory and our true self resides. The heart is, um, if we want to be authentic, we really do need to be established in the heart. It's the place where our love for the world and for other people flows through us. Um, so it really, what I'm hoping the book will inspire people to is to just really acknowledge and appreciate. It all starts with acknowledging and appreciating Acknowledge and appreciate the glory within them, and acknowledge and appreciate their design, their natural design, as magnifying glasses. Each one of us a
Hmm.
unique magnifying glass
Hmm.
for the image of God, for the glory of our of spirit, of our creator. I know I sometimes sound a little bit traditional, but I really am very into spiritual, and I embrace new thought and the new age very much too. So I tend to just draw from truth wherever I find it.
So, why do you focus on the heart so much in your book, Say Yes to Life? You kind of answered that, right?
Yeah, I suppose that's one answer. Also, because I'm really interested in helping people make the journey from the mind to the heart. And I feel like we can do that when we marinate in, I'm sort of providing a marinade, you might say, a soup for people to sort of have an osmosis with, or maybe it'll rub off on people. So if we're sort of marinating in saying yes to newness or saying yes to our expansiveness, if we're just maybe reading a section every day or whatever, that might be helpful to bringing us into our heart. I'm really hoping that this will serve as a bridge to the heart and to appreciation of all the glory that's in the heart. I have heard that appreciation is really the ground floor or the first step
Mm-hmm.
towards gratitude. And
Mm-hmm.
once we start appreciating, I hope that everything I do in the world will help people experience appreciation for their heart, for their glory. Once we start appreciating, then, well, eventually, if we just are consistent with the appreciation, we'll eventually move on and up into the realm of gratitude. And when we're grateful, then happiness is just, it goes hand in hand with the gratitude. Gratitude and happiness are sort of like two strands in the DNA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I'm struck by your comment about how saying yes to life is expansive. And do we ever think about our thoughts as whether they're being constricting? You know, how much are we saying no to life and it becomes boring and stressful and dull when we could be saying yes to new experiences, new friends, new neighbors, whatever. The whole that whole expansive of our heart is pretty key to this.
I love that insight. Thank you for sharing that. It is indeed key. Richard Rudd is one of my teachers, and he has talked about a metaphor, an example of walking on a stone path and focusing on the next stone in front of you. And he says that a lot of people don't have a path that leads far out into the horizon, which is really
Yeah.
ideal. That's
Yeah.
ideal. And
Yeah.
and then focusing on each step as you progress towards the horizon is really helpful. But he says that a lot of us are sort of feeling stuck and stale and just having the same old month after month after month, because the stones that we're following are sort of arranged in a circle.
Yeah.
And then we look at the stone and it's like, wait, I've seen this before. I've already been on this stone. And so we sort of wind up just keeping going in the circles and circles and really not making any spiritual growth, perhaps, or any progress in getting closer to our goals or our destiny.
Or our uniqueness.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think our uniqueness would be supported by leaving that circular path behind and going in a straighter path. The straighter path is found when we are focused on our heart and our expansiveness. And, I gave an example earlier, just half an hour ago, about how I was living in a constricted circle, in a constricted life. I was so jealous all the time, so bitter all the time. And I was just sort of flying in a circle over the airport, so to speak, for years.
And that wasn't saying yes to life.
Nope, nope. I was uh, really not. I don't know if I was really aware of that possibility. I don't. During that time, sometimes people would come to me and say, "Well, I hope this new job that you just got is a happier experience for you." I guess I was doing a lot of complaining, so everyone knew I was miserable. And they would say, "Well, I hope you're happier now," or something. And I would always think to myself, "I'm not so sure I'm not that happy. Why do you see me as unhappy?" I wasn't really aware until later on in my life how truly miserable I was. And the contrast between how I feel these days and the way I did for so many years in New York is really remarkable. It's like night and day.
So, what is the single most important factor accounting for the increase in our country of depression lately?
Yeah, we already did talk about the monkey mind, and that is one of the things that could be the most important factor. I don't really know for sure. I don't know if anyone knows what the single most important factor is. Another thing that I think might be very important, and perhaps it's the single most important factor, is I'm not entirely sure. I think that those of us who are willing to explore Einstein's question and willing to, okay, let me backpedal. I'm being very confusing. I apologize. Einstein asked a question when he was alive, and he said it was the most important question that we need to answer. That question is the universe a friendly place? And I really think that that's a key to becoming happier, answering the question yes instead of no. So I just want to
Oh.
encourage everyone
Mhm.
to sit with that question and to see if they might be willing to lean into a yes at least, to be open to, well, maybe it is. Start with maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, and also you might I just really love to look at the lives of people who have been confident and trusting in the goodness of the cosmos. For example, Saint Therese lost her mother when she was 4. Saint Therese of Lisieux, she was around about 100 years ago in France. And then a few years later, her older sister, she didn't pass away. She went to a convent, and when you go to a convent, that means you're secluded. At least the Carmelite convents are that way. So she sort of lost her sister, her who was her second mother, the older sister who had been mothering her
Mhm.
ever since her mother passed away. So she was devastated when she lost her mother, and she was devastated when she lost her sister, lost in quotes. And she cried tears both times. She really felt her feelings full out and lived lived out her feelings. And then at the same time, it didn't cause her to doubt the goodness of the universe. She knew there was something more, something expansive that was still available to her. So she continued to say yes to life all through her life.
So, the answer to Einstein's question is either a positive or a negative. So, if we're saying no, then we're more likely a negative, doubtful, fearful person?
I think that if you do say no, it will make it less likely or more difficult to come into a place of trust, inner harmony, and happiness.
Mhm. Mhm. So, oh, and did you go from that negative to positive switch in your mind then, back when you were in those entry level jobs?
I think that may have been part of the equation for me. I hadn't looked at my past in that light, but I appreciate your asking that question. I think that may have been part of the recipe.
Mhm. Mhm. So, um, I think one of the positive switches that we can use is even seeing you said appreciation, but even noticing beauty. I mean, when you're out walking, do you hear the birds sing? Hello? Do you, notice the flowers that are blooming? Do you notice, um, what way is the wind blowing? Even simple things like that can start opening those dusty, dull closets in our life to help us, embrace the friendly world, right?
Yes, I love that idea. Yes, that example.
Yeah, 'cause, it's not I've heard people talk about, depression is, staring at your belly button and you can't hear the birds when you're doing that. You can't see what's in bloom when you're doing that. So, I hope we're inspiring you today to say yes to life. And Elliot has his new book that we're going to tell you how to get in this next section. So, um, and he's going to tell us who could benefit most from this book. So stay tuned to Fresh Courage. Thank you for listening to Fresh Courage on the Transformation Talk Radio today. And I am your host, Sharon Rolfe, coming to you with my guest. And our topic today is Say Yes to Life. And Robertson has just written that book. So he's going to tell us how to get that and how he's got a giveaway for you. So, who would benefit from saying yes to life the most?
It's for anyone who would like to set their inner sails in a new direction, away from feeling stuck or bitter or self-pity into a direction of more self-acceptance and self-love and more willingness to say yes to life. It's also for those who are wanting to have a more optimistic um, point of view, a higher level of altitude. It's for those who are interested in self growth. I feel like self growth can be a part of self care, and self care can be a part of spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is a wonderful adventure, and this book can support that adventure. It can provide kindling for exploring saying yes to life and exploring what it might be like to honor your unique gifts more, to listen to your heart more,
Mhm.
to make yourself more available to feeling all your feelings and to uh, just being curious about what might benefit you.
Yeah, opportunities. Well, and I often say explore possibilities. What was the phrase you just used? Um,
I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe I did. The thing is that I love that. Thank you for showing that. There is a chapter called "Say Yes to the New," and that's mostly about saying yes to new possibilities, perhaps possibilities that you've never even thought of before. I like to just open up the mind and heart to entertaining new possibilities, sort of brainstorming with yourself for what if such and such is possible, and so on and so forth.
well, that certainly would kind of scoot some of those dull days out of the way, wouldn't it? If you say
It
yes, what could happen today?
Yes, and it also encourages a sense of expectancy. I distinguish between expectation and expectancy. I think expectation can look like, in some cases, it can look like, oh, life, I expect you to be just like this. This is the way my life should be. It can be having an image or whatever of what you want your life to be like. And that can get in the way. That can be a trap to inner harmony. It can be a trap to the experience of happiness. So, whenever there's a should or an ideal image, that's a good thing to avoid. On the other hand, so that's expectation. On the other hand, expectancy is really just going out the door, wondering what wonderful good things are on their way to you.
Yeah, so expectation might be we're not all perfect, so it's not going to be perfect. We're humans after all. Where expectancy is more like, I wonder if, or, what could show up. You're inviting surprises into life.
Yes, exactly.
So, you're actually kind of encouraging people to form Say Yes to Life groups, right?
Yes, I would be so delighted if people who read the book decide they would like to go through it again, maybe with some friends or maybe with people from their church or just whoever they want to invite. I just imagine that it might be exciting and helpful to
Yeah.
have a chance to say, oh, this is something that I am looking forward to that might be possible for me, and to listen to other people say the same, answer the same question in their own way.
Well, and often when others may see us in more clearly than we see ourselves, right?
Yes, I've had a positive experience with one group that I think this is really the group that inspired me to include Say Yes to Life groups in my vision. I was going to the Artist Way group a couple of years ago, and I had such a positive experience with that. My book is very different from the Artist Way, but nonetheless, I think my book does lend itself to that kind of experience.
So, tell people about your giveaway and your website and how they can reach you.
Yeah, the URL to go to find out more about Say Yes to Life is www.sayyestolifebook.com. And when you go there, even if you're not interested in the book, I would be delighted for you to go and receive a gift. There's a gift being offered that's a bundle of an appreciation exercise. That's a PDF.
Oh.
The same PDF also has some excerpts from the book, so you can get a little taste of what Say Yes to Life is like. And then, if you like it, then maybe you'll want to get the book. And then it also has a guided meditation, an audio recording. So if you go there, you'll be able to download, three different items. Well, it's really one PDF with two things in it, plus the audio. Once
Mhm.
again, that website is www.sayyestolifebook.com.
Okay, thank you for that, Elliot, and thank you for being my guest today. And people can find my what I do in my website at effortlessvitality.org. And I have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel where I do a vlog besides putting my podcasts out there. And because I like to, for my vlog, I like to hold up these little things and tell people what the words of wisdom mean to me and how they might consider using that thought for their week. And I try to give you a curious question to live up to too. And do you have any upcoming events? I forgot to ask you about that, Elliot.
Yeah, I am working on a second book right now. So hopefully, The Servant's Way will be coming out at some point.
Oh, okay, good. So you're enjoying writing then, huh?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay, and should you be interested in maybe purchasing some of these, I have them on the Etsy store called Quilted Petunia, and I have more made than what's on the Quilted Petunia store. So if you ask a question, I may have some others that different color combinations or whatever. So saying yes to life is being expansive and is saying yes to our uniqueness and yes to what else?
Saying yes to grief is included. One of the main
Oh,
starting points for feeling happy is listening to your heart, honoring your feelings, and feeling all of your feelings totally, 100%. Including, I'm going to be radical, including resentment. If you've been betrayed by a boss and you're feeling resentment, let that resentment exist until it is time to let it go.
gosh. And I just read something in the last 2, 3 days about grief as being often our love for someone who we can't express that love to any longer. And that's kind of the bed seatbed, I guess, of where the grief comes in, because now we can't express it. It's kind of stuck in us. Maybe you've had a different experience.
I love that that description of grief, and I really just want to encourage everyone to just feel the feelings whenever they arise, whatever arises, welcome them, embrace them, and then also let them go and let them
Yeah.
be a guest as opposed to a permanent resident, and just let things shift from moment to moment. Let the feelings dance through you throughout the day.
Dance, that's a fun word, isn't it?
Mhm.
Well, I want to thank you for listening to Fresh Courage today and Transformation Talk Radio. I hope we've said something that is valuable, useful, and that you are on your way to transform from stress and being stuck and saying no to life to now saying, I'm gonna try this, saying yes, and see what a difference it makes. Because we often don't realize how often we're saying no. And it is certainly a new awareness to open our eyes and say, maybe I'm stuck because I keep saying no. And or being stressed out because we're not giving ourselves a chance to have a bubble bath or a walk around the block. So, um, again, say yes to lifebook.com is Elliott's website, and he has some freebie giveaways for you there. And I thank you for being my guest today. And stay tuned to Fresh Cruise next week.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you.